ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all to this interesting panel on the CBD market in Switzerland. And in the next 45 minutes, we would like to gain insights into this new market, thanks to the novelty and dynamics of this market, as well as the special position which Switzerland has as a country in this market. We would like to discuss in more detail the CBD market in Switzerland and Europe. At first, we'd like to look back into the past and show how everything started in the market. Then we'd like to focus on the current situation in the Swiss cannabis market. And in a third part, we are going to jointly have an open discussion in order to see how companies in Switzerland are getting ready for the future to continue to be successful in the market. Okay, let's get started with the past in order to see how everything developed in this cannabis market.
I will switch to English now. How did you actually set foot in the cannabis industry and in the Swiss CBD market, and what were the first products that you sold? So we need to keep in mind that the cannabis market, Swiss CBD cannabis market, started around 2015, 2016, and you were one that was there in the beginning.
So first of all, we're passionate about the business itself and the cannabis industry. I started in 2017. I was still studying business and economics at the university, doing my master degrees. And yeah, I saw some shops open in the cities. Me and my brother, we opened a company, and we all think in 6 months we're going to be rich, which was completely not the case. So back in that days, I was even myself, my hand in the soils, trying to grow some plants, and discovered that the price is going down and down and down. When I put the seeds into the soil, it was 5,000. When I saw the plants coming out, it was 4,000 per kilo. When I harvest, it was 2,000 per kilo, and what I started to sell was even under my production cost. So we had fast to implement some strategies to differentiate and to get profit out of this industry that was really hard at these days.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Hermie, and I think...
And Afrim, you at Mary Jane also experienced what Hermie just said. You need to be very dynamic in this market. So what are the different products that you are offering your clients? And in your opinion, how has the market share of these individual products changed? So let's say CBD flowers compared with extracts and other hemp products. Well, we are a vertically integrated company, meaning that from the little plant to the final customer, we cover the entire value chain. The key focus of our work is indoor flower production, where we are one of the biggest players in Europe. In B2B, we deal in flowers, 80%. Then we also have shops. And in the shops, we see a development of about 40% flower sales, 40% oil sales, and the rest are other products. Around 20% or so. Okay, thank you very much. Claudio, you have also been one of the early adopters, and you have seen how things changed. Can you, from your perspective, explain to us how prices developed? So from the beginning, maybe prices of the different products, because you, as your company, with your company, you produce different products, and what the challenges are. Well, in the beginning, it was a product that was new, and prices were very high in the beginning, be it for flowers, oils, so you could quickly sell the products. It was good quality already, but I mean, even less good quality could be sold rather quickly. And now the development has been that requirements get higher and higher. People want to have more and more information, analysis on pesticides. They'd like to be sure that the product, because it is kind of a delicate product in Europe, they'd like to have more and more information. And so over the past 5 years, prices have plummeted. But for good products, you can still get a good price. Okay, thank you very much. So we see that in the beginning there was kind of a gold rush, many people entering the business, many people gaining a foothold in the Swiss market. And Tiano, you with Grünkraft very quickly focused on export markets, new markets, which doesn't mean that the other companies sitting here didn't do that. But from your point of view, also as a pioneer in the field, how did you do that? What was the basic idea behind that? And how come that you looked at other European markets? Well, the entire CBD wave somehow started in Switzerland. And then we thought, well, why not ride the CBD wave, setting new standards? And in early 2018, we directly went to Austria because of their THC plants. They have a long cannabis tradition. And we really knocked at the doors of the big companies. And in the beginning, they didn't really knew what we wanted from them. And we started doing some pioneering work in the field. Rather quickly, we also went to Luxembourg, where they had some legal changes. They changed the THC thresholds, and luckily we were able to hold the monopoly in Switzerland for a long time. With this 1%, we had more leeway. We were able to develop products that were good for the European market. And then from Luxembourg, we started delivering to the whole of Europe. And now I can say for the 6th time in a row, we have also been able to deliver THC-free products directly from Switzerland to Japan. Oh, that's interesting to see, these dynamics that have developed there. I mean, what you do is not only flowers, it's a broad range of products. And that's also important, that you are able to offer different products to your clients. Yes, that's important. The demand has changed. In the beginning, it was clearly the flowers. That was like the foot in the door. Everybody has in their lives made good or bad experiences with cannabis, can somehow identify, and then people noticed, okay, apart from tobacco, there are lifestyle products, the pharmaceutical market, new markets are developing, and then you see what interesting products could you combine with CBD. Well, thank you very much. You see, we actually wanted to look into the past, and what we've learned here was how dynamic the market is. And now I'd like to talk about the current situation of the CBD market in Switzerland and Europe. And here I'd like to discuss with Swen. You only recently joined Pure Production. And for a longer time, you had kind of an outside view of the industry, and I'd like to hear how you're going to make the company future-proof now, and what impression you had as an outsider when it comes to this current market situation, where we increasingly see some price pressure. Yes, it's true. I am certainly somebody who's rather new to this industry. I joined Pure Production in March, and it's certainly not an easy situation in the Swiss market at the moment. And that holds true for many companies. There's high price pressure, and we mainly see that in the field of commodities, not so much on the retail products or the strong brands. So it's mainly the commodities market that is under pressure. and there's an oversupply in Switzerland. This is not necessarily a Swiss problem per se. We see the same situation in Europe and the US. But in Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken, we have more than 600 operations in the CBD field, which is nice to see if you see how many jobs are being created there. But on the other hand, this can also trigger a negative development and vicious circle. And what is the reason? Why? I mean, a big reason is the lack of regulation. The CBD market's not regulated. Everyone can produce, everyone can import. And we're seeing now that this price pressure is a direct consequence of that lack of regulation. A certain consolidation is already happening in the market, and we at Pure believe that this consolidation trend is going to continue. So we're not done with that.
Thank you very much, Sven. I switched to English now because I'm going back to Hermi. But I think it's very interesting what Sven said, the consolidation of the market, the prices that are slowly going down or are at a low currently. So how affected are you at GreenBrothers in this actual situation right now, or what do you think in general of the prices and the development right now in this case?
So, to be honest, we are not that much affected because we never compete on prices. So that was part of our strategies. We mostly compete on quality and services. So we try to push this orientation. And of course, we think that fighting of price is a consequence of what happened, but at the end, too much fighting on price is an unsmart way to do the business. And we think there is other critical success factor that can be used to survive. And in general, we know that now many companies are getting bankrupt, especially producers. So we think that this company will disappear and the price will rise again to a sustainable price at the end of the year or maybe a bit after. Let's see how it goes exactly.
Well, thank you very much, Hermi. I think this is also very important to understand that there are also people that there are ways around this current pressure on the prices that are right now are a standard on the production side. But I think it's very important that to differentiate and go also different ways and find new ways how to navigate this really dynamic market. So
now, for us, it is also high time now to look into the future and to see how this dynamic environment can be navigated through. And I'd like to ask the first question to Claudio, so we can have an open discussion here. Hermi mentioned it already. How do you think will future prices develop? I know that's like looking into a crystal ball, but from your perspective, what do you think? Well, there are different markets, and I'm mainly talking about flowers now, because we are 80 to 85% of all that we produce is flowers or flower products. And there is an overproduction. Very often other countries come to Switzerland because they hear, well, people in Switzerland are buying up CBD flowers, and they all try to offer their products here in Switzerland, also here at the Expo. And there are big productions in Italy. These plantations also deliver to us. Our advantage is that we can sell it on in the whole of Europe. But I don't think prices will rise so quickly. But I do hope that it won't go further down. However, that might happen in October, November now as new traders enter the field. But what you also need to say, if you have really good products, good flowers of high quality with new strains and so on, then you can still demand a good price. You need to remain innovative, you need to have new ideas, and then you can get good prices. But I don't think that in the short run prices will increase. Okay, innovation is a big buzzword, and also quality. Swen, I think you agree with that, right? You are going in the same direction, aren't you? Absolutely. And quality is of the utmost priority, and we see that also in connection with an ever higher need for information on the client side. They want to know, how do you produce, is everything trackable, and also the quality not only within the product but in service quality, being reliable. Many customers now also have established brands, especially when it comes to the white label field. So you need to deliver constant quality without fluctuation. So it's, again, like the Swiss qualities. Reliability, safety, that'll remain key to success. And you at Mary Jane Afrim, you also make sure that you further develop your client base. I think everyone here does that. Can you give us insights into how you do that, how you make sure that you remain top of the game? Well, with hindsight, if you look back into the year 2016-17, that was rather easy. As Swen said it, everyone started producing, and clients were knocking at your doors. You were able to sell everything. Now, things have become more structured. You need corporate structures. You need to train your salespeople. You need to make sure you offer good client services. It's like in any other field. That's no different in cannabis. Of course, sometimes it's a bit more particular, but it's actually like any other business. And we also talked about Swissness previously. Is that also something that's important for your company, Tiano? Yes, of course. In the beginning, nobody talked about process optimization and calculations. You just took a piece of paper, said, okay, I harvested so much, I need so much. And now this is really, really detailed work. And production only pays off if you know what your return per square meter is. You need to know the genetics. You need to know what your fixed prices and costs are. So you really need in-depth knowledge, and you need enough perseverance. So if there are months where the market plummets, and then you need to come up with new ideas. And coming back to Swissness, in Switzerland we have watches, we have chocolate, and now we have cannabis that's going to help us abroad. Switzerland stands for trust, but Switzerland is a high-cost country. And we are not going to plant outdoor plants anymore next year. That doesn't make sense to produce outdoors for the flower market in Switzerland, because the competition from abroad is just too fierce. There's an industrialization happening here, and yes, I would like to add something here. I fully agree with Tiano. But when it comes to indoor, I'd say, Switzerland is a pioneer, definitely. And looking at the electricity prices in Europe, Switzerland's not the most expensive country. They were really among the cheapest players. And electricity accounts for a lot of production costs. So if you have modern plants, we in Switzerland are definitely competitive. And they have the biggest indoor plant in the whole of Europe, with the best and lowest prices, by the way. Yes, it's certainly this combination. We also asked ourselves the same question at Pure, that was even before my times there. Is Switzerland the production hub of the future? Is it well worth producing here? And if so, what can you produce here? And for us, the answer is yes, but for certain things, Switzerland works. High quality Swissness, there will always be a market for that. And the medical cannabis is going to be interesting here, but Pure has now also shifted part of their production to South Africa. And they produce there where they can also achieve very good quality. Oh, that's interesting. If you see how you need to adapt, you need to evaluate the situation, look at what makes sense, you need to look at the facts and figures to be competitive as a producer in Switzerland. And Claudio, you at Alplant, to what extent do you respond to customer demands, requirements, their wishes, and like convince them with Swiss quality? Isn't that also a success factor for you? Absolutely. So we also look around, look at the US or other countries, what products are on the market there. We also look at what the others are doing, what clients' wishes are. We try to respond to these wishes. We know certain things are faster to do and others take more time, but we try to follow up on that. But what I also wanted to add, so shifting the entire production to other countries, we've also made our experiences there, and I don't think this is only positive. Of course, price-wise, it's good. Labor is much cheaper there. But from such a distance, it's not so easy to check assure quality. Then you need to have really good people on site, a really good person, even an entrepreneur on site to check everything. Because if the price is cheaper but you don't meet the quality requirements in Switzerland, then it doesn't work. So going too far away, this is not our policy. We'd like to remain regional. Outdoor production in Switzerland, well, fortunately we only have some southern cantons, Valais and Ticino, but we also look at southern Italy. You can compare our outdoor production with wine. I like the Valais wines, but if you compare it with some wines from Tuscany, and it was rainy this summer in Switzerland, so this summer was really not a good summer. And I also get the feeling that the weather in Switzerland is getting worse. Yes, over the past 2 years. And that's true. Producing abroad, I agree with you, that comes with challenges. On the one hand, how to assure this high level of quality that customers are used to. I mean, you need to convince customers, you need to bring proof that you can really offer this quality. And Tiano, you also said it, with process development, process structures, you can do a lot. So, I mean, I come from the food sector. There, global value chains are normal. And when it comes to food, not everything's produced in Switzerland anymore, only certain things. And that's a challenge to really make sure the value chain works well, especially if something like a COVID-19 pandemic comes and airplanes get grounded. So that is just one way of what we have seen can be done to further differentiate on the supply side. I mean, it's really interesting that we had the possibility to deal with that.
And I would like to switch to English again because I want to involve Hermia also as well a little bit into the discussion.
Thank you.
So I think it's a general fact that here in Switzerland we also have this pressure from the outdoor market, and I can say since we have this experience here that now everybody described, and we have these 4 years already in the bank, that we have a lot of experience out of it. So it's also important for us to take the dividends out of it. But nevertheless, there is another challenge that we heard before, that there's a lot of product from cheaper produced producers, that quality is what it is. I mean, not to make it bad or good, but how do you think could this be used in Switzerland with the regulations that we have in Switzerland, that they could develop a trading hub, and Switzerland could establish itself as a trading hub with all the knowledge that we have here?
You mean to import this product, or?
No, that the product is generally here. I mean, it's going to be here, and we already have the network and the knowledge how to supply the European markets. So is this something that in general would be interested for Switzerland as a market?
I mean, it's a free market, so yeah, of course it will be some import. This we cannot do against. I think we should use our Swissness now. Also, as I said before, not only competing on price, but to implement some strategies such as marketing. And even with Swiss product, we can have a added value because Switzerland is known around the world for having quality product. And I think this is one important point we should push to the customers and make them understand that if they want to buy Swiss product, they need to pay the price for. And otherwise, of course, we can import some Chinese extract and make some oils that are not good and bad. That's not the discussion, but of course they are not Swiss. And then we have to explain that to the customer and say, okay, now you have the choice. Of course, you can buy CBD oil for €3 for a 5% bottle, but you know what's inside. It's not Swiss product, of course. If you want the Swiss product, you need to pay this price. But if you want the low price, I can provide you, but it will not come from Switzerland. So this we have to explain and also educate the market, especially for the export. So then it's the choice of the customer to do what they want. Yep. But yeah, trading is of course interesting for the customers that are focusing on prices. Just they need to understand the exact stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we see also it's important now to bring to the customer also the full story of the product, and I think that's one of the major trends that we see. Tiano?
Yes, and you can feel that things are happening in Europe. A lot is going on, and for me it's clear cannabis is a premium product. I mean, there will always be discount suppliers. That's not going to change. But we need to attach the right value to cannabis. And apart from innovation, we also need to develop new products. And if we only just work or sell via the price, we from Switzerland can never win the war. So it's interesting because we have also thought so lot about what that means. Why are we sitting here? We've got a plant which now needs to become established, accepted, and my grandmother has the feeling I am a legal drug dealer. She doesn't understand what's going on here, and that's a bit the challenge that we need to deal with. As Swiss companies, we need to say, hey, these are our values, this is our quality, and in the long run, that's going to work. And I think when we talk about premium, we in Switzerland can do a lot if we offer premium customer services, like quick response, quick deliveries, so that the overall package is right. For instance, if a client from Europe, why should he order from Switzerland if he could order from a farmer somewhere in Europe or in the world? Because from us he gets the finished product. He won't have a headache about not being the product not being homogeneous. That is something where we have an advantage, because we as Swiss are known as being good in that area. Absolutely. So that's a general advantage. The companies in Switzerland are doing well there. Yes, like having a company based in Switzerland, making sure everything is compliant, doing track and trace, knowing where the product goes to, that we can provide the customer certainty here. That's a virtue of Switzerland. And Swen, I'd like to ask you now, looking back at your previous work experience in a different industry, what do you think? Would Switzerland benefit from additional regulation in this industry? Well, definitely, in my opinion. I mean, at the end of the day, the food industry, where I come from, is highly regulated. You get constantly audited as a consumer or as a production company in that area. So many requirements regarding employee training, quality assurance systems, and additional regulation would also serve the customers, would bring uniform standards. And with regulation, the market will also be consolidated, because additional standards means additional investments for the producers. Producers might need to introduce new systems. But we at Pure would welcome regulation, and we'd like to be a pioneer in the field. I think we all here want to be pioneers, and we want to show, hey, that would work. Well, I think it's important that we grow out of our own infancy as an industry, and I'd like to ask you all now whether you'd like to have additional regulation. Afrim? Oh, yes, that would be extremely important. Right from the beginning, we have banked on quality assurance systems. And if today you look at these 600 plus companies, only a minor percentage of them has a QMS system, is certified, and really meets quality standards, where products are traceable, where the lots can be traced. And that's important. This is exactly what Swen said. So Mary Jane would also welcome more regulation. Our company too. And I think we need that. I mean, there were interesting speeches about what are you allowed to do with CBD, what can't you do yet. Now THC is going to come. And my vision is that you can sell products like after a hard party night, and then on Monday when you need to go back to work, you take exactly so much CBD, you're fresh again, can start the week again, and that you'd be allowed to promote this product this way. And apart from the regulators, you need data, you need studies, experience, and all our companies do that we do these first mover steps in that direction, that we like try to sell something to Russia, try to get in feedback from them, where other people would tell you, Russia? No way. But no, this is a way to source information, and everyone here does that because you need to do something. And politics are lagging behind. And we try to make them jump the bandwagon. Well, I think we can welcome a new member here on the panel. English or German? Well, that's also a differentiation point. I mean, you can stand out because as a company you bank on different businesses or segments, or you bank on quality, certification, and we must not forget that the market is developing quickly, and with the market, customers are developing. Entirely new customer segments get added that have in the past never thought about cannabis, and suddenly new companies think about product development in the area. Okay, thank you, Hermi.
I just also want to include you again a little bit with research and development. How does it look with GreenBrothers? I think it's also an important part that you guys always stay on the forefront of this industry.
Yeah, I think, as I said before, one very important strategy is except competing on price is innovation and to develop new products, to see where are the trends. But also everything what's linked to THC is, of course, something really interesting for us, where we think, where we know we will be in a few months and years. But geographical expansion is also part of the development of the companies, where we see countries opening. So here we have to be ready, and we have to be ready before it's regulated completely, because there is still some barrier and still some constraint to do the business. And this is, in my opinion, where a business is interesting, because it's something difficult. And when a business is difficult, is where there is opportunities that not everybody can access.
I think what we can learn from all of the gentlemen here is that standing still is not an option. So you need to face the dynamics of the market and adapt. And now I'd like to tell you some news, the new THC regulations coming up, on the one hand for medical products, where we do hope that very soon new things will get implemented, and the pilot projects are coming in Switzerland. So what do you think will be the future of this plant and the industry? Where can we develop? So can each of you maybe make a statement on that? Well, the medical market with THC above 1% is extremely interesting. The big difference being that this is going to be a completely regulated market. That's a big difference to the CBD market. Entirely different requirements and control measures. A big opportunity for Switzerland, and I think for those companies that are entering this field, it offers opportunities. Prohibition Partners estimates the market to be several billions until 2028. So there's major opportunities there, but that's going to bring a change of paradigms also for the companies entering this market. Afrim? So, of course, we also welcome the new regulations next year that are going to come. But nevertheless, with our major production, we will continue to bank on CBD. But, I mean, we have the same space available again, another 15,000 square meters, and we can quickly build up something there. But first of all, we'd like to see where the market's headed. I mean, the market is huge, but we are not yet banking on THC. It's not that we've been waiting for that all the time. No, we will wait and see and then just follow the dynamics of the market. Oh, that's also interesting to hear. Claudio? Well, that's two different things. On the one hand, the pilot projects, and on the other hand, medical cannabis. That's two different things. The pilot projects, I mean, we welcome that. It takes us a step further. And I think that's typical for Switzerland, that you do a test first. Whether we will join will depend on the cost. Because we know that we might have to invest more there. It will, of course, be good if you're in the business right from the beginning, but whether that makes sense from a business point of view, we will see. And the second point, medical cannabis, which is going to come next year. We're also looking into that. We are observing the market, but we prefer to focus on one thing. Because if you do too many things, your quality suffers. So at the moment, we will focus on what we do. We are not a pharmaceutical company, and the requirements in pharma are so high. This is like a new word for us, and CBD continues to be an issue for us. So I can only agree with the two others said. This is still kind of a Pandora's box, these pilot projects. And we as Grünkraft, as a company, we still miss a certain trigger to start looking into that area. But we are a company. We need money, we need a cash flow, we need growth. And to be honest, we don't have the money for that, and we lack a scientific partner who tells us how to do that. And it's great that the media in Switzerland are now reporting on the topic. That's great. And also certain authorities involved still do not know where we are headed. And regarding medical cannabis, together with Lipomed, a pharmaceutical company, and in cooperation with Mary Jane, we have produced an API, and that's a clean product. It is not like Eco-GMB that some companies sell for 4,000 a kilo. No, we've done a lot of analyses. It took time, and it's going to take some more time, but it's coming.
Hermie, also for you again, it's just about the THC and the involvement of the Swiss regulation in medical and also in the pilot project and also the export. So also the media was mentioned, that it plays a great role also to pave the way and opening up this theater to the public and also helping us to educate the market. What are your thoughts, and also with GreenBrothers maybe, about this upcoming possibility?
I hope I'm not repeating what my co-competitors said before, but we think, of course, it's going the good way, especially for the project pilot. The difference between with the CBD market is that Switzerland, we had a regulation that the other country didn't had. Mm-hmm. We had the 1%, but Switzerland and THC, comparing with other countries, is already late. It's late comparing to Portugal, comparing to South Africa, comparing to other countries. The decision and the way they take decision, we can feel it's still a bit cold. And of course, the price to build, to invest in Switzerland is really high. Then the OPEX to run the company is also really high. So I don't know how is it strategic right now to wait on something that it's still a bit cold and to invest into that. We have to go for the project pilot because we are from Switzerland and we have to go there because actually there is no choice. But if I will invest into the THC, it will probably not in Switzerland.
Very, very interesting. So I would like to close this discussion for right now, and we are also...
and now we open up for questions from the audience. Exactly. There are the first questions there already. Thank you all. Just introduce yourself, tell people who you are, what you do, and who you ask the question to.
My name is Loic from a green and blue company in Barcelona. I'm representing Wecan Trading. I have a general question to the panel, and it is, what do you think is the greatest threats to the Swiss cannabis industry at the moment and the position it has on the global market?
What's the greatest?
The biggest threat?
The biggest threats.
Gefahren.
Well, for me, one of the biggest risk or threat for me would be not to seize this opportunity now, also from a regulatory point of view, that Switzerland continues to make regulatory progress and remains the most progressive country behind Canada in dealing with cannabis. So much has happened on a political level over the past 12 months in Switzerland. Developments that we hadn't really foreseen, so better than expected developments. And this momentum is something that we need to build upon now. That would be the greatest risk, that we miss that trend.
Is your question answered by that? Is there anybody else who wants to contribute?
Well, I also see a big risk, namely that the Czech Republic increases to 1% at the beginning of next year. That's certainly a risk that you need to focus on. And that might also be a new trading hub for commodities from South Africa, South America. So you also need to focus on that. Well, absolutely. The biggest risk for us as a small country exporting to the whole of Europe would be if everyone in Europe suddenly went up to 1%, because then this whole balance would be lost, and that could cause a lot of pressure. That would be a risk, but other risks I don't see.
So, further questions, weitere Fragen?
Questions from the audience? Doesn't seem to be the case. Elias, do you have one more question, or would you like to touch upon a few more points? We've got some time left. Otherwise, I would just ask any question. How are your kids? Do you have kids? What's your affair called? No, just kidding. So just one question. We heard about the pilot projects before. These experimental items article that we now have in Switzerland, that's an important step. And the threats that you just mentioned, I mean, in 10 years at the latest, once the experiment has been concluded, Switzerland should open up for recreational use. I mean, they want to do that for 2 to 3 years first, and then they can prolong it. And they only want to have outdoor and greenhouse plantations, organic. But if that works well, I don't think it needs to take 10 years. I think in 4 to 5 years' time, they might come up with suggestions. Well, the problem currently is, and that was mentioned at a panel yesterday, the problem is that this experimental items article, you can make use of it for the first 5 years, and then it can be prolonged, and everything has a complete duration of 10 years, which poses a threat itself, even though it's a good development. But the pure duration shows us how long we will have to wait for regulation. Well, yes, but if I remember correctly, the Federal Council kept the back door open, so to speak. They said that if the experiments go well, then the Federal Council itself can press ahead with the legalization. That's the way Switzerland goes. We had 5,000 subjects per canton, and in Zurich, which is the biggest canton with about 2,000 subjects. I mean, that's the Swiss way. In Canada, it was 23 million in the same project. So it's a step in the right direction. I agree, we need to support it, and maybe regulation's going to come earlier. But I'd also like to add from my point of view, because I have seen the developments in the US firsthand, and I can say it would be a good opportunity in Switzerland if they offered the opportunity by setting the right legal framework to promote new startups, because this market is a very interesting one for producers and for Switzerland as a hub for cannabis production to play a role here worldwide. And I think it's about time, after all these developments that we have seen in the past few years, to have something in Switzerland too. And I'm very optimistic and positive on these pilot projects. That would be good, yes. And I heard from the Federal Office of Public Health that they are in an international exchange also with Canada, which has played a major role here.